What's up YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 236. Let's start the bomb. The first fight is Brandon Davis versus Randy Costa, and to me Randy Costa looks like a decent up-and-comer, but I just think he's taking this fight in too short notice, and I think he's too early in his career. He was only like 4 or 5-0, and I think Brendan Davis, both these guys are both strikers, but I think Brendan Davis has just got the better conditioning. And I mean, his only real weakness is against guys that are better grapplers than him. I think that this is going to be a straight striking fight, and I think that Brendan Davis is going to eventually wear down Randy Costa and just win by TKO probably in the late second, early third. Next, we got Lauren Mueller versus Poliana. I can't say her last name. To me, Poliana is just way better. I think Lauren Mueller is probably a little bit better of a wrestler, but I think Poliana, if she keeps on the feet, she's going to light her up, and I think Poliana is going to win by decision. Next, we got Montel Jackson versus Andrei Sukumtov, and I think in the first round, Sukumtov has a slight chance of winning this, but I just think his takedown defense isn't as good as Montel's takedown offense. I just think that Montel is the much better athlete in this one. I think since he got that win in his last fight, we're going to see him really start to take off. I think he has great wrestling, great striking, and we're just going to see him overwhelm Sukumtov. I think Sukumtov's just going to get pushed against the fence, taken down, and beaten up, and probably get finished in the first. Next is Curtis Millender versus Bella Muhammad, and this is entirely depends on how good Bella's Muhammad is going to work against Curtis. Because I feel like if Bella can get this to the ground, he'll win pretty easily. But the problem is a lot of his takedowns are like body lock takedowns, and I think the takedowns that Curtis Millender gets hit with is double legs a lot of the time. I think if Bella's just going straight for body locks, I think Curtis should be able to fight it off. And I think that in terms of just straight striking, I had to give the edge to Curtis. I do think it's close. Like I said, it's entirely on whether Bella can get this to the ground or not, but I'm leaning towards Curtis being able to keep it on the feet, and I think Curtis wins by knockout sooner or later. Next is Boston Salmon versus Khalid Tahad. And to me, I think people are not giving Khalid not enough credit. I feel like he lost his UFC debut, but he was fighting at featherweight, and he's a natural bantamweight. I feel like he's a great striker, and Boston Salmon's also a good striker. This is striker versus striker, but I think Khalid just hits harder. So I think Boston's a little bit better technique-wise, but like I said, I think Khalid just hits harder. So it's tough. I'm leaning slightly towards Khalid. I think, like I said, I'm going with his power. I think this will be a striking fight for as long as it lasts, but I just see Khalid eventually catching him and winning by TKO. Next, we got Max Griffin versus Salim. I can't say his last name. Salim looks great. He looks like a solid up-and-comer. It's hard to tell how good he is because he hasn't fought necessarily the greatest competition ever. Max Griffin, though, I feel like even though he's a good wrestler, his striking is just kind of okay. Like I said, I haven't seen Salim fight any super amazing people yet, so I don't know how great his wrestling is, so that's what makes this fight a little bit tough to call, but I'm just leaning towards Salim. Like I said, I definitely think he's the better striker, and if his wrestling holds up, he should be able to win by knockout in the first or second round. Next, we got Wilson Hayes versus Alejandro Pantoja, and this is so dumb that this fight isn't on the main card. It's number 4 versus number 5. There are 3 fights on the main card that could easily be switched out for this fight, and it's not even the main event of the prelims. I hate it when the UFC says that, and they don't even stand by it. It's like, it's just something that pisses me off. Sorry that I talk about it, but it's just the truth. It's like, why even have a fight division at this point if you clearly don't give a shit? Wilson Hayes, I think, is the better overall wrestler. I think grappling-wise they're about even. I definitely think striking-wise Pantoja is the much better striker. I think he hits harder, and he's got much better combinations. This just depends on if Pantoja can keep it on the feet, and I think he's gotten better at that. I think his one thing was kind of conditioning, but we saw in his last 2 fights, I think he's been working on that. I think that, like I said, the longer this goes, it's going to be close, but I'm just leaning towards Pantoja. I just think he has such a big advantage in the striking. Like I said, his striking is really clean, very fluid. He hits really hard. He's got a lot of wins by TKO. I just feel like Wilson Hayes, he might be able to get to the ground, but I don't think he'll just be able to dominate Pantoja. And I think every time it's on the feet, I think Pantoja will be able to dominate Hayes. So I think sooner or later, Pantoja is just going to overwhelm Hayes and win by knockout, probably like towards the end of the third. Next, we got Jillian Turner versus Matt Florio, and this is kind of like round 1 versus rounds 2 and 3. I think Jillian Turner is the much better striker. I think that he's a fast starter, and there's a strong chance he'll win by first-round knockout. But I think the longer this goes, it heavily favors Matt Florio. I think he gets stronger as the fight goes. We saw that in his last fight where he got a draw against what's his face, fuck, I can't remember his name. And we've seen he can take a big hit. Like, he's been knocked out, but he's also been hit and come back. So it's kind of one of those weird dice rolls where it's like, can he survive the early storm at Jillian? And if he does, he'll most likely win. So it's kind of just what you think. I'm leaning towards Florio. I think Matt survives the early round, and then come the second, third round, he starts pouring it on Jillian. And like towards the end of the second, early third, I think Matt's going to get on top of him and win by submission. Next is OSP versus Nikita Krylov, and I think Nikita Krylov's gotten a lot better since their first fight. I think OSP is probably still slightly better. Striking-wise, it's pretty close. OSP, I think, is a little bit faster, but I think Nikita's a little bit cleaner. I think wrestling-wise, OSP still has a huge advantage. But I think if Krylov can get on top of him, he could dominate this fight, and he's gotten better at timing his takedown. So I think this fight's going to come down to who goes for that takedown first and gets it to the ground. Like I said, I still think OSP is the bigger, stronger guy, so it's really tough. I just think Nikita Krylov's on a much better run at the moment. I feel like OSP hasn't looked super amazing in his last few fights. So it's tough just because Nikita also hasn't fought in a little while since his loss to, I can't remember his name. This is probably the toughest fight on the card for me to call, but I'm edging towards Nikita. I think that he comes out fast and gets a takedown early, and I think once he gets to the ground, he's going to win by rear naked choke. But like I said, it's just super tough. I think whoever initiates the grappling first and gets to the ground is probably going to win. But I'm just leaning towards Nikita. Next, we got Alan Jouban versus Dwight Greit. And to me, Dwight is decent, but I think Alan Jouban is just the much better overall at throwing volume. I think Dwight just kind of waits for counters a little bit too much. And I think that that's probably not going to happen against Jouban. I think he's too good striking-wise. I think Jouban's just going to edge out every round just with his volume. They're probably about even striking-wise, but I just don't see this going to the mat, and I think Jouban's, like I said, better volume. So I'm going with Jouban 30-27 decision. Next, we got Eric Anders versus Khalil Roundtree. And to me, this is just like the Jillian Turner fight. It's like round one, Khalil Roundtree, I have winning all day usually, but if this gets into the second, third round, I think Eric Anders is going to start to dominate, and this is what I think is going to happen. I think Eric Anders has a good chin, and I think he puts a good pace. I think the first round, Khalil will probably win, but I think Eric Anders will slow him down enough to where the second round he'll get a takedown pretty early and just beat the shit out of him from the top. This is what I got. I got Eric Anders getting a second round TKO. Next, we got Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya, and I'm still not super sold on Israel. I feel like, you know, he's got big wins and he's looked good, but I still worry because there's still that fight where he fought Martin Vettori, and Martin Vettori took him down and held him down almost that whole round. And to me, it's like he hasn't fought super amazing wrestlers other than Derek Brunson, and I know he was able to stuff Derek Brunson, and that was super impressive. So it's tough because I want to see him fight someone like Kelvin. I feel like if he can beat Kelvin, then that would probably put away all my doubts. But until he beats someone like Kelvin, who's got good wrestling and good striking, and can take a hit, because Derek Brunson's been knocked out a lot, it's just, I think Israel has more advantages in this fight in terms of height and reach. He's definitely the better striker. But, like I said, I really worry about his grappling, because I feel like Kelvin's really good at taking guys down. We haven't seen him in a while, but he's amazing when he gets guys to the ground. He has really fast back takes, and he's got great rear naked chokes. Like I said, we haven't seen it in a while, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's his game plan. He's shorter, and I think in terms of the takedown speed, he's faster. I think Israel, like I said, longer, taller guy. If he can keep it on the outside, he'll probably win, but I just don't see that happening. I think Kelvin will eventually get the takedown, and I think when he does, he's going to transition to the back and get the rear naked choke. And I think that happens in the first two rounds, so I'm going with Kelvin. I say he wins by first or second round rear naked choke. Next, we got Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, and I think this fight's going to be exactly like their first fight, minus the takedown. Because the first fight, it was basically Max was starting to land on him, and then Dustin shot for the takedown. And, you know, Max was only like 4 fights in his career. Dustin was already on his like 10th or 11th fight and was already ranked in the top 10 when they fought the first time. And Max took it on short notice. I think if you consider who's gotten better, both of them have gotten better, but Max got like 10 times better and Dustin's like 5 times better. I think Max won't be taken down like he did in the first fight. I think it's going to be exactly like that. I think Max is going to slowly build and build every round like how he always does. And I think having to cut less weight, we're going to see him be able to take the hits better and do more damage with his shots. I think, you know, the first 2 or 3 rounds will be back and forth, but I think come the end of the third, beginning of the fourth, we're going to see Max start to take over. And he's just going to start swarming him, and Dustin's going to be shooting for takedowns that he's not going to get. And I think sooner or later, like towards the end of the fourth most likely, I think Max is going to win by knockout. This is probably going to be fight of the night. This is probably going to be a fight of the year contender, but like I said, I think Max is going to build and build every round, and Dustin's not going to be able to take him down like he did in the first fight when he starts getting clipped. So I got Max Holloway winning by 4th round knockout. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.